Thank you for joining me tonight. Special thanks to all the lovely people that joined me last night. If you checked in, you see we had a great time. We went through the characters, had a bit of conversations about the characters in the stories. We talked about parenting, how parents should like calm down and connect with their children. We talked about relationships, how red flags should not be ignored. Hmm. We had a good time. If you missed that watch party, please head over to my channel and watch that just watch. You will learn a thing or two, right? So tonight we're doing something different. We are watching
Frozen in Time.
the dark side of marriage no one talks about. But then instead of just watching, like last night, we're still going to have a bit of conversation around what's going on in marriages, why people ignore the sign, just conversations. I just take this place as a safe place where you can just talk about things that are bothering you and let my ears listen to you tonight and let's just have a good time together, people. So first of all, we'll watch a bit and then I'll give you the background of the story. I'll tell you why I wrote the story and yeah, that's it. Let's go, people.
Tones, dabbing at their eyes, casting glances.
Let's start from the beginning. 1, 2, go. Yep.
I watch them now, from a place beyond pain, beyond breath, beyond life itself. My lifeless body is draped in white, the scent of lilies thick in the air. Mourners whisper in hushed tones, dabbing at their eyes, casting glances at the man standing at the front. Deji, my husband, my murderer. He looks broken, grief-stricken, his voice trembling as he thanks them for coming to honor my memory. The perfect heartbroken husband, the same man who once whispered love into my ears as his hands crushed my bones. If only they knew, if only I had left before it was too late. It could have been better. I could have saved myself, but I was hell-bent on holding up the popular theme of life and marriage, endurance. I endured and tolerated until my dying day. I remember the first time I met Deji. His smile was like sunlight breaking through a storm. His words, smooth and sweet, melted into my ears like poetry. He made me feel seen, cherished, adored. He brought me flowers just because. He'd cut my face, trace my jawline, and whisper, Bola, you're my peace. You're the air I breathe. How could I have known that this same man would one day steal the very breath from my lungs? Our love was intoxicating, the kind you read about in novels, the kind that makes people jealous. Our last trip to Paris remains frozen in time, the glimmer of the Eiffel Tower in the background, the sparkle of the most beautiful ring in existence as he knelt before me. His voice was soft yet firm. Marry me, Bola. Let me love you forever. I said yes. I said yes to forever, to a dream I had stitched together in my mind. The first week of marriage was bliss. The second week, hell announced itself. Deji had returned from a late-night meeting. His face was unreadable, his steps deliberate. Welcome, love. How was your day? Before my words could settle, his hand was on my throat, his grip tightening as he shoved me against the wall. A belt lashed across my skin, once, twice, again and again. The searing pain was nothing compared to the shock. My husband, my Deji, was beating me. When he was done, he tore my clothes like I was nothing, like I was disposable, like I was not human. And then he took me, my own husband. He took me as I cried, as I bled, as I screamed for the man I fell in love with. It seemed like a dream until the pain reminded me that it was not. When he was done, he staggered away, went into the bathroom, and I heard the sound of glass shattering. By the time I found the strength to crawl inside, I saw blood trailing from his palm. He had cut himself. For a second, I wanted to let him die, to walk away and let his life drain out, as he had drained the soul from mine. But I didn't. The good in me, the foolish in me, grabbed the first aid box, and dressed his wounds. I watched the bleeding stop, his breath steady. I saved the man who had just broken me. That night he cried into my lap, "I'm sorry, Bola. I don't know what came over me. I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. So I swallowed my pain and let him hold me, his arms wrapping around my battered body. It didn't stop."
Hi, sorry for disrupting your watch. I just want to check in and see. Welcome everyone. Thank you, Ned, for being here. He said I'm usually awake, so I enjoy the watch parties. Thank you. I'm glad you're here. Sorry, I can't pronounce your name, but I'm fine. Thank you for checking in. Thank you, guys. I appreciate your presence in this watch party. Okay, let's keep going. Yeah. So about the middle, we're going to have these conversations I'm talking about. Please help me like this video, share it with your friends, and yeah, like this video, share with your friends. If you've not subscribed to my channel, I beg. Subscription is free now. Drop me a subscription, guys. I beg. Share this video and let's continue before we get into the marriage conversations we need to have tonight. Okay? Let's go.
Every little thing became an excuse for his rage. The stew was too salty, a slap across my face. The curtains weren't drawn the way he liked, a push down the stairs. I wasn't in the mood for sex, a brutal force against my will. He loved me in the morning and destroyed me at night. I covered my bruises with makeup. I smiled in public. I defended him when my sister, Yinka, raised concerns. He's just stressed, I'd say. Marriage has its ups and downs. Deji was respected, adored even. No one would believe me if I told them. The worst part? I stayed. I stayed because I thought love meant sacrifice. Because leaving felt like failure. Because he would kneel and cry and tell me he would change. And I believed him every single time. Until I didn't. The night before I died, Deji came home in a fury. "You think you can embarrass me, Bola? You think you can make me look like a fool?" I didn't know what he was talking about. I had only told Yinka the truth. That was my crime, speaking the truth. He grabbed me by the hair and dragged me across the marble floor. My head hit the edge of the table. I felt something crack. "You're my wife. You belong to me." I couldn't fight back. I couldn't even cry. Somewhere inside me, something broke beyond repair. When I woke up, I was on our bed, a wet cloth pressed against my forehead. Deji sat beside me, stroking my arm. "I love you, Bola. I'm so sorry. Let me make it up to you." Something inside me whispered, "Run." But I was too weak to move. That night he held me as if he hadn't almost killed me. He whispered forever into my ears. And I knew then that if I didn't leave, I wouldn't make it out alive. The morning was quiet, too quiet. I tiptoed to the door, my packed bag in hand. My heart pounded as I turned the knob. Then I heard his voice behind me. "Where are you going, my love?" Terror gripped me. "Deji, I didn't get to finish my sentence before his hands were around my neck. Tight, tighter. I fought. I clawed at his arms. I kicked, but he was stronger. The last thing I heard was his whisper. "You're mine, Bola, till death do us part." Now I stand as a silent observer, watching the world mourn me, watching Deji weep over my casket, receiving condolences, playing the part of a grieving husband. I want to scream. I want to tell them that this is the same man who ended me. But the dead cannot speak. So I watch. And I weep for the woman I once was. The woman who could have lived. The woman who could have chosen herself before it was too late. If only I had left it. If only I had saved myself. He always beat me. But the terrible thing about it was, he seemed unaware of the abuse. Shocking, right? I couldn't even begin to comprehend how the man I had once loved, the man who once made me feel like the only woman in the world, could now treat me as though I was invisible, as if my pain didn't matter. I remember the day he chased me around the house with a knife. I had made the desperate decision to call Mama. to finally break my silence and tell someone about the horror I was living. I had been suffering in silence for so long, hiding bruises, erasing tears, and pretending to be happy.
Once more, sorry guys. I just have to say hi to a couple of people. Hi Grace, thank you. I see your message. Thank you for your support. I'm from Nigeria. Don't I sound Nigerian? I'm from Nigeria. That's why I craft Nigerian tales. Yeah. So thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe, share this video, let your friends join the watch party. Let's just enjoy. And then in 5 minutes, we're going to have the conversation I spoke to you guys about. Okay? Let's talk about the background of this story, why I wrote this story, and then let's explore the characters and what would you have done if you were in Bola's shoes. Okay, let's continue.
But this time, I needed someone to know. I needed help. I tried to keep my voice calm, tried to make it sound like everything was okay, but I couldn't hide the tremor in my voice. Mama, I need help. I don't know how much longer I can take this. I never expected him to be standing at the door, eavesdropping, hearing every word I said. The moment I hung up, he charged at me. His eyes were wild, full of rage. He grabbed me by the wrist and hissed, "Who were you talking to? What were you telling her? Why do you want to end my life prematurely?" My heart pounded in my chest. I knew I had made a mistake, a fatal mistake. I had exposed the truth, and now I would pay for it. We ran around the room like animals in a cage, me trying to escape, him hunting me down like prey. I raced down the stairs, my feet stumbling over the steps, my life depending on how fast I could go. He was right behind me, a beast on a mission to silence me forever. Then it happened. He caught me, and in one swift motion, he slashed my arm with a jagged piece of metal. The pain was instantaneous, and the blood poured out of me, staining the floor beneath us. I screamed, but my voice felt distant, like I was trapped in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. He didn't even pause for a second. Instead, he scooped me up, his hands crushing my body, and dragged me into the car. We sped to the hospital. The whole time, I could barely see through the blood that clouded my vision. At the hospital, the doctors immediately took me into the emergency room. They needed a history of what happened, but Deji didn't give them the full story. No, he simply told them that when he got home, he found me like that. He wasn't concerned about my pain. All he cared about was protecting himself. But I felt relief in that moment. The hospital was a sanctuary. For the first time in what felt like forever, I was away from him. I had the chance to breathe, to recover, even if just for a moment. I begged the doctors not to discharge me, but of course I knew that wouldn't happen easily. He was already on the phone making arrangements. The next day, he arrived at the hospital with gifts, flowers, a get well soon card, food and drinks. His face was full of fake concern, as though nothing had happened the day before. He sat next to me and stroked my hair, his voice low and syrupy sweet. "Sorry, darling, you'll be fine." I felt pity for myself. I knew I was in deep.
Okay guys, let's talk about this video, right? So the reason I wrote this tale is about because of women, African women especially. There is this popular theme that's always spoken to us about, you know, marriage is ups and downs, you gotta work it out and support your partner, stuff like that. When things happen, try to endure. So the women have this theme in their heads, endurance. We want to endure till things get better. But then the thing about this particular tale is because why, in fact, this is the first tale I made crying because I usually watch my tales before I post them, right? I was listening to this one and tears were just rolling down my cheeks. I was like, do you know there is actually someone going through this thing this woman is going through? There is a woman who found who found herself in a difficult situation like this, and she's wondering what she should do about it. First of all, a lot of women do not have the financial capacity to live abusive relationships, and that's why some of them stick there till they die. Secondly, a lot of people worry about their children. Oh, we have children. What will happen to them if I leave this marriage? And they end up dying. The children grow up and move on with their lives. Thirdly, and the most important one, every most women think about what will people say. This particular line has ended a lot of lives. What will people say? Maybe she's working in a church, or she holds a position, a deacon, a deaconess, or something, or she married this man who is popular in the society. She doesn't want to stain his reputation, so she just hangs in there. Oh, what will people say now? If I leave, they will say I don't have faith, I can't build my marriage, I couldn't wield the pin. So all of these things make women sit back. In fact, I love this particular character Bola, because when we keep watching, you see that she actually tried to get out of the marriage. She spoke to her family about it. She tried to run away, but somehow the man dragged her back. So this is me appealing to anyone in an abusive relationship. And see, your life is more important. It's easier said than done, right? There is a lot of support all over the country, different countries, Canada, Nigeria, US. There is support for people going through domestic violence. There are numbers. In fact, tomorrow I'll do that research and I'll come up with numbers that you can actually call if you're in Nigeria and you're going through things like this. There are numbers you can reach out to and they will help you and support you. So, people, let's continue. I will tell you
Was
everything.
trapped, tangled in a web of lies, deceit, and abuse. The man who had promised to protect me was the same man who wanted to destroy me. When the doctor came to check on me, Deji wasted no time in claiming I needed a mental examination. His voice was urgent, his words dripping with fake concern. I think my wife has lost her mind, doctor. She's fond of giving herself bruises. I believe she's on drugs, but I've never caught her. The lies kept flowing from his mouth, but no one seemed to notice. No one saw the real Deji, the monster I had come to know. He went on to tell the doctor he was arranging for a house help to keep an eye on me when he was out. He was doing it all for me, he said. Long story short, he looked up at the doctor with tears in his eyes, his voice trembling with fake emotion. Please, doctor, my wife needs help. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell them the truth, to expose him for the monster he was. But I didn't have the strength. My body was breaking.
Grace, I hear you. Actually, I cloned my voice to like get this effect, but they couldn't get my exact Nigerian accent, and I honestly wished they could get it right. But it's fine, Jerry. Let's continue watching our story. Honestly, I'm so happy you're here. Thank you so much for being here, Grace.
Down, and my spirit was fading with every lie he told. When Deji left, I looked at the doctor, desperate for help. The only help I needed, I whispered, was to stay longer in the hospital, far away from that monster who claimed to love me. But Deji didn't stop there. Every day he called the hospital, begged the doctors to discharge me. He didn't want me here. He wanted me back where I was weak, where I was under his control. He even tried to convince the nurses to let him take me home. But they found excuses to keep me there longer. I could see the pity in their eyes, the unspoken understanding. After what felt like an eternity, I finally felt sick. Not just from the injuries, but from the years of abuse that had drained every ounce of life from me. It wasn't just physical anymore. It was mental. I was breaking and I knew it. That's when the real admission came. I underwent a series of tests, physical and mental, the kind of tests I never thought I'd need. And then the results came. I was pregnant. It felt like the ground beneath me cracked open. I was pregnant. I was carrying Deji's child. The man who had beaten me, humiliated me, used me. How could I bring a child into this world? How could I let him live with the same monster that had almost taken my life? If you are still here with me, thank you for being here. Please subscribe, like this video, and share this video. Let the world hear my story. I could feel the cold, sterile air of the hospital, a stark contrast to the chaos in my mind. The walls felt like they were closing in. Each second that passed was a ticking clock that brought me closer to facing the truth. A truth I had buried for far too long, but now it was impossible to ignore. I was pregnant. My whole body trembled as the news settled in. I wasn't just carrying any child, I was carrying his child. The thought sent a cold shiver down my spine, and my hands shook as I gripped the edge of the bed, trying to steady myself. How could I protect this unborn child from the monster I had married? How could I allow this child to be born into a world where violence, control, and fear ruled everything? The weight of my decision pressed down on me, heavier than anything I had ever carried in my life. I had thought about leaving him before many times. I had made plans, built hopes, but there was always something that kept me tethered to him. Guilt, fear, love, or what I thought was love. Deji had convinced me time and again that he loved me, that his actions were driven by passion, by an overwhelming need to protect me. But the truth was far darker. What kind of love beats, humiliates, and destroys? What kind of love tears down every bit of confidence, every shred of self-worth, until you are nothing but a hollow shell? He had hollowed me out, piece by piece, until I didn't recognize myself anymore. But now, with this pregnancy, I had to think of the future. I had to think of the life I would bring into the world and whether it would be safe in Deji's hands. Could I keep this child from becoming like him? Could I protect them from the same fate I had suffered? The thought that I might have a child who would grow up and one day repeat the same patterns of violence and fear made my stomach churn. I couldn't let that happen. I had to find a way out. Deji came every day, his visits becoming more frequent as the doctors began to speak of my discharge. He always came with the same gifts, the same flowery words. I'm so sorry for what happened, Bola. You know I love you, right? I promise I'll change. But his words felt hollow now, like a script he had memorized. The charm was gone. The sweetness was a facade, one that didn't fool me anymore. I could see through it, straight into the man beneath the act. There were moments, though, when I wanted to believe him. Moments when I thought that maybe, just maybe, there was still a chance. But those moments were fleeting, vanishing as quickly as they came. And every time I saw him, I was reminded of the monster he truly was. It wasn't just the physical pain. It wasn't just the bruises and cuts that marred my body. It was the emotional scars that ran deeper, the ones that couldn't be seen, the ones that gnawed at my soul every single day. The constant questioning of my worth, the self-doubt, the feeling that I wasn't good enough, that I wasn't strong enough to break free. I had to carry this weight in silence, pretending to be okay, pretending that everything was fine. But inside, I was breaking. I couldn't help but wonder what my family would think if they knew the truth. What would Mama say when she found out about the bruises, the brokenness? What would my friends think when they saw the woman I had become? I had spent so long hiding behind a mask, pretending to be the perfect wife, the perfect daughter, the perfect friend, but it was all a lie. The day I found out about the pregnancy, everything changed. I couldn't look at Deji the same way anymore. I couldn't pretend anymore. I was carrying his child, but I couldn't pretend that I was happy about it. The thought of bringing a child into this toxic environment felt like a death sentence. How could I raise a child in a home where violence lurked in every corner? How could I let my child grow up with the kind of man who would hurt their mother without a second thought? When I told Deji, the look on his face was a mixture of surprise and confusion. He hadn't expected it. and I could see the gears turning in his mind as he processed the news. Bola, are you sure? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I didn't answer right away. My silence spoke louder than any words ever could. His hand reached out, as if to comfort me, but I flinched. I couldn't bear his touch. Not now. Not after everything he had done. Bola, I'm going to make it right, he said, his voice strained. I'll be a good father. I'll change. I promise. I'll be the man you deserve. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But how could I? How could I believe a man who had beaten me, who had controlled me, who had stripped me of everything I once was? How could I believe in his promises when I knew deep down that nothing would change? You don't know how to love me, Deji, I whispered, my voice thick with unshed tears. You don't know how to love anyone. All you know is control, power, manipulation. And I can't do it anymore. I can't stay here trapped in this cycle of abuse. His face contorted with rage. You're the one who's broken Bola. You're the one who needs help, not me. I'm doing everything I can to make this right. I'm trying. And this is how you repay me? I shook my head, tears falling freely now. You don't get it, Deji. You don't see what you've done to me. You've broken me piece by piece. You've made me hate myself. I'm not the same woman I was when we got married. You've taken everything from me, and I don't know if I can get it back. He stood up, pacing in the small hospital room, his fists clenched at his sides. You don't understand. You don't understand what I've done for you for this marriage. I'm trying to make it work. Why can't you see that? I was shaking now, but not from fear. No, this time it was something else. Something stronger, something fiercer. I was done. Done with the lies. Done with the manipulation. Done with the abuse. I don't need you to make it work, Deji, I said, my voice firm. I need to be free. I need to heal. And I can't do that with you in my life. He froze, and for the first time I saw a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. It was as if the mask was slipping, and for a brief moment he was just a man, vulnerable and unsure. But it didn't last. The rage returned, more intense than ever. You'll regret this, Bola, he hissed, his voice venomous. I will make you regret this. I stood my ground, my heart pounding in my chest. I've already lived through hell, Deji. I'm not afraid of you anymore. Don't forget to subscribe for the next chapter in this raw, emotional journey. The next part of my story is coming soon. That was the moment everything changed for me. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about the future, about this child, about breaking free from the cycle that had held me captive for so long. I couldn't let my child grow up in this environment. I couldn't let them see what love was through Deji's eyes, through the twisted lens of control and violence. I had to protect them. I had to protect myself. And so the decision was made. I would leave. I would take this child and leave everything behind. I would fight for the freedom that had been taken from me. I would fight for the chance to be more than just a survivor. I would fight to be whole again. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be challenges, setbacks, and moments when I would want to give up. But I knew deep down that I was capable of more than I had ever believed. I was stronger than I thought. I had survived the worst, and now it was time to rebuild. It was time to start living.
So guys, notice something about this character. She's really strong and has this deep resolve to actually get out of this toxic marriage. Again, there is something that shook me about her partner. The guy is, I don't know, I think he actually has a mental problem because there's a part where she said, oh, he hit me, and after hitting me, he didn't even know that he hit her. So this is me trying to tell you that there are a couple of partners who actually have mental health challenges. They might not know what they are doing, while some are aware of what they are doing. And notice how she tried to get out. She called her family. See her strong resolve here. Did she get out? Let me see. Was she able to get out? We actually have a part two of this tale where we'll find out what finally happened. If you're still here with me, thank you guys for sticking around with me. And I hope you're having a good
If
time
love was a
and you're learning something new.
if love was a fairy tale, mine turned into a nightmare. I fought for freedom, but every time I reached for it, the chains tightened. Now I wake up in my husband's house, but I never chose to return. What happened? And why does my skin crawl at the sound of his voice? The scent of freshly cooked jollof rice drifted into my nose, an aroma I once associated with warmth and comfort. But this time, it smelled like deception. My eyes fluttered open, my body stiff and unyielding against the soft mattress. I knew this bed. I knew this room. I was home. My heart started to pound. No. I had been in the hospital. I was supposed to leave. I was supposed to run. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to remember the last thing before my world went dark. Deji had stormed out of the hospital, his face twisted in rage after I told him I was leaving. I had called the nurse, requested my discharge, and she had nodded politely before handing me my last dose of medication. Then, nothing. My fingers trembled as I pressed them against my temple. My limbs felt heavy, like they had been drained of life. Could he have paid someone to sedate me? I shuddered at the thought. I forced myself up, my legs wobbling as I staggered toward the door. I needed to call someone. Amanda! I snatched my phone from the nightstand and dialed her number. She picked up on the first ring. Bola, are you okay? What's going on? I swallowed the lump in my throat. Amanda, I don't know what happened. I woke up at home. What? But you were supposed to leave the hospital. How? I don't know, I whispered. I just woke up here. Amanda sucked in a breath. Maybe Deji realized he was wrong. Maybe he wants to change, Bola. I let out a hollow laugh. Change? A man who had nearly killed me multiple times? A man whose hands had left bruises darker than the night? Maybe the baby will change him, Amanda added softly. I flinched at her words. I wanted to believe it. I needed to believe it. Unless, Amanda hesitated, unless he has no milk of human kindness at all. A knock at the door. I turned, and there he was, Deji, the man who had once held my face in his hands and whispered promises of love, the man who had proposed under the shimmering Paris lights, the man who had shattered me piece by piece until I was unrecognizable. And yet, he stood before me, holding flowers. Bola. His voice was soft, almost gentle. I got these for you. I stared at him. He knelt down in front of me. I'm sorry, he said. I know I've hurt you, but please, believe me, I'll do better. As usual, I felt nothing. Not anger, not fear, just emptiness. I prepared something for you, he continued. Come with me. I didn't move. He reached out, taking my hand in his, and against my will, I followed. The hallway was lined with red rose petals. The scent of vanilla candles filled the air. I stopped at the doorway of what used to be the guest room. The door swung open. Inside, the walls were painted in soft pastel colors, and a crib sat in the center, adorned with tiny stuffed animals. A large banner hung above it. Welcome home, my love. Tears pricked at my eyes. For the first time in months, a smile crossed my lips. He has changed, I whispered excitedly to Amanda later that night. I told you the baby would change him, she replied, though her voice held an edge of caution. Maybe she was right. Maybe Deji could be different. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. Deji carried me like a fragile egg, pampered me, made me feel like a queen. He attended antenatal visits with me, played with my growing belly, whispered lullabies to our unborn child. began to hope. The monster had disappeared. In his place was the man I had fallen in love with. And then the cracks began to show. He would have mood swings, screaming at me, locking himself away for days without eating my food. I told myself it was fine. At least he wasn't hitting me. At least my bruises had healed. At least I could smile again. Amanda's words echoed in my head. He seemed to have changed. But be very careful, dear. The past few months had felt like a dream, an illusion of happiness painted over wounds that had not yet healed. Deji had been different, or so I had allowed myself to believe. He was gentle, present, doting. He played with my belly, whispering sweet nothings to our unborn child. He accompanied me to my antenatal appointments, helped me put my swollen feet up, and even massaged them at night. I was almost convinced. Almost. At 36 weeks, my belly stretched like a balloon nearing its limit. Moving around was difficult, but I found solace in the simple things. Watching TV in the afternoons, feeling my baby kick against my ribs, humming lullabies I had learned from my mother. That afternoon, I was seated in the living room, my hands resting on my belly, watching a reality show when the front door slammed open with a force that rattled the walls. Deji stormed inside, his eyes wild, his chest heaving like a predator ready to strike. "Where is my wristwatch?" he bellowed, his voice slicing through the air. The rage in his tone made my skin crawl. I sat up slowly, my heart hammering. "You usually keep it on the center table," I said cautiously. "Let's check there." I struggled to rise, wincing at the weight of my belly. I reached for the center table, my fingers barely brushing against the wood. Slap! A blinding pain exploded across my face. The force sent me rolling onto the couch, my vision blurred with unshed tears. My hands instinctively cradled my belly. I gasped, struggling to process what had just happened. My mind screamed at me, "Run! Run! Now!" I scrambled up, my body sluggish but desperate. I stumbled toward the next room, slipping inside and locking the door just as Deji's fist pounded against it. "Bula, open this door!" he screamed. His voice was venom, thick with rage. I pressed my back against the door, my breath coming in short, panicked bursts. My hands trembled as they clutched my belly protectively. "Where is my watch? You think you can play games with me?" His fists slammed against the door, again and again, shaking it on its hinges. It was in that moment that I knew I had married a monster, not a man. A beast in human skin. Amanda had been right all along. "He needs help, Bola. You know that, right? He isn't normal. You can't keep pretending he is." She had pleaded with me before. I had snapped at her, told her to stay out of my marriage. But now, sitting behind a locked door with a psychopath trying to break it down, her words came crashing down on me. They never changed. Tears burned down my cheeks. I muffled my cries with my palm, afraid that any sound would set him off even more. Minutes passed. The pounding stopped. Then silence. I must have cried myself to sleep, because when I woke up, the house was eerily quiet. The digital clock on the nightstand blinked 12:07 a.m., midnight. My breath was shallow as I pressed my ear against the door. Nothing. I had to leave. Now I tiptoed across the room, my swollen belly making each step slow and deliberate. Every creak in the wooden floor sounded like a gunshot in the silence. I reached for the doorknob, turning it painfully slow. It opened. The hallway stretched before me, dark and empty. My heartbeat pounded in my ears as I made my way to the front door, inch by inch, breath by breath. Almost there, a single step from freedom. Then crash! A white-hot pain exploded through my waist as Deji slammed the glass center table against me. The sound of shattering glass filled the room as I crumpled to the ground. Pain, agonizing, excruciating pain. I gasped, my hands flying to my belly. Blood, so much blood. I looked up, my vision swimming, and saw Deji standing over me, his chest heaving, his hands clenched into fists, his face twisted into something inhuman. You thought you could leave me? His voice was terrifyingly calm. You're mine, Bola, do you hear me? Mine! The city of Lagos was alive with the usual chaos that comes with a Friday night. The streets buzzed with the noise of honking cars, the distant laughter of night-goers, and the harsh cries of street vendors trying to make their last sales of the day. But there I was, trapped in the dark, in the throes of excruciating pain, with only my thoughts to keep me company. I had never felt pain like this before. My stomach churned, my limbs shook, and I could barely catch my breath. But through it all, my thoughts were focused on one thing: save my baby. I screamed it again and again, my voice hoarse from the effort. Help me, save my baby. The wetness soaking my clothes made it clear I was bleeding a lot. My hands trembling reached for my stomach, desperately trying to hold on to the life growing inside me. But I could feel myself slipping away inch by inch as the pain grew more intense. And then the world around me seemed to fade away. The harsh hospital lights above dimmed, and the sounds of the siren began to blur into nothingness. My breathing slowed, and for a moment, everything felt surreal. And then something happened. Something I couldn't explain, yet something that felt almost like a release. I saw myself. I was above the chaos, watching from a distance as my body lay motionless, a ghost to my own existence. I could still hear the doctors shouting, see the frantic movement of their hands, but I wasn't really there. Not physically. I wasn't breathing. I wasn't bleeding. I was simply watching. Deji was beside himself, his voice breaking with desperation as he clutched the doctor's feet, begging them to save me. His hands were stained with my blood, but he didn't care. He only wanted me alive. I saw the tears streaming down his face, the weight of his guilt and panic pressing down on him. Please, God, don't take her from me. It was almost too much to bear, seeing him like that in so much pain. He didn't deserve this. None of this was his fault, and yet I had become the victim of a toxic love, one that I had refused to leave for too long. But no matter how much he begged, no matter how much he cried, it wasn't enough. I wasn't coming back. I watched as they rushed me into the operating theater, the cold metal doors sliding shut behind me. The sterile scent of the hospital hit me, and I wanted to scream, to tell them that I wasn't ready to die, that I wasn't ready to leave my son, to leave my daughter, to leave my life. But no one could hear me. No one could see me. I ran after the doctors as they pushed me into the theater, but no matter how fast I ran, no one seemed to notice me. I couldn't even get close enough to speak to anyone. I reached out to a nurse, tried to grab her sleeve, but my hand passed right through her. Was I dead? Was I really just a ghost? Please, I begged, someone help me. But there was no one to answer. The doctors worked frantically, their hands moving like lightning as they tried to stop the bleeding. I could hear the beeping of the monitor, the frantic rush of commands, and the sterile silence that settled over the room. But none of it felt real. None of it mattered. I was slipping away, and no one could bring me back. Suddenly, the door to the other room opened, and I saw my baby, my little girl, being carried in. Her tiny body was limp, lifeless in the neonatal.
Wow, okay, people. This is a heart-wrenching deal. I've had a good time hanging out with you tonight. If you've not seen this deal, please head over to my channel and watch it to the end. See how she lost her life and how her sweet, sweet, wicked husband moved forward. Thank you guys for all the support. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you so much. I'll see you soon. We will do another watch party again, okay? I enjoy hanging out with you. Bye. Have a good night. Good morning if you're in Nigeria.
I followed them as they rushed her to the resuscitation room. Please, God, don't take her from me too. They worked tirelessly, giving her oxygen, performing cardiac compressions, doing everything they could to bring her back. But I could see the desperation in their eyes, and it felt like a punch to my gut. I wanted to hold her, to kiss her, to tell her how much I loved her, but I couldn't. I couldn't do anything. Time slowed as I watched them work on her, my heart breaking into pieces. I couldn't feel anything except the overwhelming sense of helplessness. Please, I prayed, save her. Don't let her die. But it was too late. She was gone. Hot, silent tears streamed down my face as I stared at her. She was so beautiful, even in death. Her tiny face, her tiny hands,